I got home earlier than expected that Sunday evening. The Austin trip wrapped a day ahead of schedule. One of the clients bailed last minute, and the final presentation went faster than I thought. The hotel was already booked through the next night, but I figured, why not skip out early and surprise Molly? On the drive back, I actually felt good, lighter than I had in weeks. I stopped off at a gas station outside Temple and texted her a picture of the sky. It was one of those watercolor Texas sunsets. She didn't respond. I assumed she was busy. She's been busy a lot lately. Still, I imagined her face when she opened the door and saw me standing there with a plastic bag full of her favorite snacks. Silly stuff. Takis, Haribo gummies, a stupid pink energy drink she claims to hate but always finishes. That kind of surprise felt like a win. We'd been tense lately, and I thought, maybe this would help. But the second I stepped into the house, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't anything loud or obvious. No voices, no movement, just the air. There was a scent that hit me almost immediately. Strong, woodsy, sharp. Not her perfume. Not mine. I stood there in the entryway, holding my overnight bag in one hand and staring down the hallway, heart starting to thump a little faster. The cologne hung in the air like a question I couldn't answer. We don't wear cologne in this house. I haven't used any since college, and Molly's always preferred body mists or those floral rollerballs she buys from indie shops. This wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It was foreign. But somehow it was here. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she had a male coworker over for a work thing. Maybe the HVAC was recycling something from the apartment next door, except we live in a standalone house. I actually laughed to myself when I realized I was standing there making up excuses for smells. I walked farther in. The lights were on in the kitchen and the living room. Our golden retriever, Luna, didn't run to the door like usual. She was curled up on the couch, head on a throw pillow, tail thumping lazily. She lifted her eyes when she saw me and then laid her head back down. Not even a bark. Not even a yawn. I remember thinking, that's weird. And then I saw the wine glasses. 2 of them. On the coffee table. One was half full, the other completely empty. A red blend, Merlot, I think. Molly prefers whites. Chardonnay in the summer, maybe Riesling if we're having Thai. I picked up the empty glass. Lipstick. Red. Faint. Like someone had wiped it with a napkin. I looked over at the kitchen. There was no second plate in the sink. Just a bowl and spoon from cereal, maybe? Hard to say. No sign of dinner. Just the wine. I set the glass back down and walked toward the bedroom. And then I saw it, the hoodie, slung over the armchair next to her vanity. Dark gray, oversized, probably XL. It definitely wasn't mine. The sleeves were long and loose, like it had been worn and stretched out. I stepped closer and touched it like it might bite. It was still warm. The scent? Same as before. The cologne. The hoodie was the scent. I just stood there staring at it. I've seen enough movies, read enough Reddit posts to know that when people talk about cheating, they often say there was some big discovery. A text, a voicemail, a lipstick-stained collar. But standing there in that dim bedroom with the half-made bed, the soft hum of the HVAC, and a stranger's scent in the air, I realized something else. Sometimes it's not one moment. It's a slow accumulation of things. Clues, details. And your brain connects them faster than your heart wants it to. The bed was made, but not by her. Not the way she does it. The pillows were mismatched, and the comforter was crooked. The left corner was flipped up, revealing the sheets. She's meticulous with stuff like that. Always tucks the corners in. She calls it hotel style. There was a towel on the floor near the ensuite bathroom. Damp. Her robe was thrown over the door. I noticed droplets still clinging to the mirror like someone had just stepped out of the shower not long ago. But she wasn't home. Not yet. I walked back into the hallway and dropped my bag near the front door. I sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the wine glasses again. My stomach had that heavy drop feeling, like going down an unexpected hill too fast. You know something's wrong, but you haven't admitted it to yourself yet. 20 minutes passed before I heard her key in the lock. The door opened, and there she was, Molly, in a light denim jacket, white sneakers, hair pulled back in a lazy bun. She looked surprised. Not shocked, just surprised enough to pause. Her eyes flicked down to my bag before landing on my face. "Kev, what are you doing home?" she asked, a smile forming a beat too late. "The trip ended early," I said. "Figured I'd surprise you." She stepped inside, set her purse on the console, and moved toward me with a hug that felt like it was out of obligation. One of those half-hearted good-to-see-you hugs. She kissed my cheek but didn't linger. "That's nice," she said, walking into the kitchen. "You should have texted." "I did," I replied. She paused, her back to me as she opened the fridge. "Oh, must have missed it." I watched her move. Something was off, small things. She was talking faster than usual, her voice slightly higher. She pulled out a LaCroix and took a long sip before finally turning back to face me. "So, how was the trip?" "It was fine," I said. "Busy." Her eyes flicked toward the coffee table. Just for a second. Then back to me. "You have someone over?" I asked. She blinked. "Jessie stopped by for a bit. Just needed to talk." I nodded slowly. "She's allergic to red wine." That caught her. For just a split second, her lips parted, and I saw the wheels turning. Then she recovered. "Oh no, she didn't drink. I poured 2 glasses, but I was the only one drinking. Habit, I guess." I didn't say anything, just watched her. "And the hoodie?" I added. She looked genuinely confused, or maybe she just wanted to seem that way. "What hoodie?" "In the bedroom. On the chair." "Oh yeah, I think that's my cousin's. He came by last weekend. Left it here." I nodded again. "Got it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Kev, what's with the questions? You okay?" I could have said 100 things. "No, I'm not okay. No, I don't believe you. I just didn't let myself name it." She also stopped letting me pick her up from work. At first, she claimed it was because traffic made it a hassle. "I don't want you waiting in the parking lot forever," she'd said with a laugh. "I feel bad." I bought it. But over time, the pattern held, even when it rained, even when we had dinner plans. She always had a reason. She always had a ride. I remember one night in particular, mid-March, I think. We had a corporate event for my firm, a charity gala at the country club. I brought Molly, introduced her around. She looked incredible that night. Hair curled just enough, deep green dress that made people turn their heads. She held my arm like she always used to, but when I introduced her to my boss, she smiled and said, "This is Kevin. He's a family friend." It hit me like static. A weird phrase. Awkward. I laughed it off in the moment, made a joke about being downgraded, but it stuck with me. Family friend. Not my husband. Not my partner. Felt deliberate. Too casual to be casual. Later that night, she disappeared during the after-party. Said she had a work emergency and needed to step outside for a call. She didn't come back for almost an hour. When she did, she was flushed and breathless. "Sorry," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Total chaos. Tech client. They're impossible." I nodded. Didn't press. I wanted to believe her. But now, lying in that same bed, staring at the same ceiling we used to joke about painting, I started cataloging everything. Every weird call. Every canceled date. Every vague, "I'll be late." The pattern was so obvious in hindsight, I felt embarrassed for not seeing it. There was even that night 2 weeks ago when she came home late, said she was working on a presentation at Garrett's house. Garrett, her boss. I'd met him once. Tall, polished, the type who makes eye contact a beat too long. He shook my hand and smiled like he knew something I didn't. I didn't like him. Molly said I was imagining things. She always defended him. When she talked about him, her voice changed. She described him as motivating, visionary, an amazing listener. The kind of phrases that, in isolation, wouldn't mean much. But all together, they painted a picture. And not one I liked. Another piece fell into place when I remembered her laugh. Molly has a specific laugh. Loud. Real, like it bubbles out before she can stop it. Lately, I only heard it when she was on the phone in the other room. Never with me. I started opening drawers. Not out of panic, just instinct. Her nightstand was cleaner than usual. The little box where she kept notes, old receipts, birthday cards, it was empty. Not thrown away, just gone. Then I checked the office. Her laptop was missing. She usually left it plugged in next to mine on the shared desk. Her charger was there, but the laptop was gone. I knew she'd taken it with her, but again, it felt deliberate. I opened the trash. New wrappers from a men's razor set. Cardboard packaging from body wash she wouldn't use. A small receipt for 2 breakfasts from a cafe near her office. Dated Saturday morning. I was in Austin by then. That's when it hit me. She wasn't being sloppy. She didn't think I'd notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care anymore. The realization was brutal in its quietness. I sat down on the couch, elbows on knees, phone in hand. I scrolled back through our messages over the past month. They were all surface-level questions about groceries, reminders to feed Luna, links to funny videos. Nothing int asterisk mate. No heart emojis. No miss you. No love you. She used to send those constantly. They disappeared just like everything else. And I remembered something else. Our anniversary dinner just a few weeks ago. I made a reservation at the Italian place where we had our first date. She forgot. Completely. Showed up 30 minutes late wearing gym clothes. Claimed she lost track of time at a networking event. She didn't apologize. Barely touched her food. Talked about her job the whole night. I thought she was just overwhelmed. I gave her the benefit of the doubt again. But now, every moment I tried to explain away felt like a breadcrumb leading to this quiet betrayal. And the worst part? I still didn't have proof. Just the kind of accumulating weight that makes your chest ache and your throat close up when you try to breathe. I stood up and walked back to the bedroom. Sat down beside Luna. She lifted her head and looked at me with that same soft-eyed expression she always wore when something was wrong. Dogs know. They always know. I reached down, scratched behind her ears, and whispered, "We're gonna figure this out, girl." And I meant it, because the doubt had turned into something else. Something harder. Something sharper. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was the beginning of clarity. It was early Saturday morning when I finally decided to stop speculating and start observing. I didn't tell Molly I had the weekend off. She thought I was still in Austin for an extended work session. I'd mentioned the possibility before, and she hadn't asked for clarification. That was my green light. I woke up before the sun and took Luna out for a quick walk, just to keep up appearances. By 7:45, I was parked a block away from Molly's office building downtown, nursing a lukewarm coffee and pretending to scroll through my phone while keeping one eye fixed on the entrance. The street was quiet. Most of the neighboring shops weren't even open yet. Across from the building, there was a small bench tucked beneath a tree, mostly out of view. I walked over, sat down, and waited. Felt ridiculous, sitting there like some amateur private investigator. But the alternative was worse. Spending another day in that house, pretending not to hear my own thoughts screaming at me. At 8:26 a.m., she arrived. I recognized her walk instantly. Even from across the street, I could see the way she tucked her hair behind one ear, the way she carried herself in that not too formal, not too casual outfit she always wore when she wanted to impress someone. Not me, though. She hadn't dressed like that for me in months. And she wasn't alone. Garrett. He exited a car behind her. Same one I'd seen him drive before at their company holiday party. Black Audi, spotless. They didn't walk in together, not technically. But they hovered close, her pace slowing slightly as he caught up. He said something to her that made her laugh. Really laugh. The sound of it traveled farther than it should have in the quiet morning air. Then they disappeared through the front doors. For the next 20 minutes, I sat frozen. My fingers clenched the paper cup until it buckled. My mind ran through every possibility. Maybe they had a meeting. Maybe she was telling him off. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But it was. At 9:03 they reappeared. This time they didn't keep their distance. They walked side by side, casually, like people who had no reason to hide. At the corner they paused. He said something and touched her elbow. She looked down, smiled, then reached for his hand. They held it, right there on the sidewalk in the open, like it meant nothing, or maybe like it meant everything. They crossed the street and sat on a bench not 30 feet from where I was, diagonally positioned, out of view. I ducked slightly behind a tree trunk, barely breathing. My heart thudded so loudly I could feel it in my teeth. They talked. They laughed. At one point, she leaned her head against his shoulder. His hand rested comfortably on her knee. It wasn't a fling. It wasn't lust or heat of the moment nonsense. This was routine. This was established. This was int asterisk Macy. And that broke me in a way no screaming match ever could. I watched for as long as I could bear. Long enough to understand that whatever this was, it wasn't new. Long enough to realize she had given something to him she hadn't offered me in months. Her attention. Her warmth. Her time. I didn't follow them when they got up and left. I didn't want to know where they were going. I already knew enough. I drove home in silence, not even turning on the radio. Every red light gave me more time to relive what I'd seen. I replayed it like footage in my head, dissecting every movement, every gesture. That afternoon, Molly texted. Long day. Might crash at Jesse's to prep for Monday. You good? Jesse again. Like a broken record. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. I typed a reply. Yeah, all good. Then deleted it. Then typed it again. Then hit send. That night, I waited until she was asleep. She got home after 10, quietly, without turning on any lights. I pretended to be out cold on the couch, one arm draped over Luna. I felt her walk past me, heard her pause briefly, then retreat down the hall to the bedroom. Her footsteps were soft, practiced. Once the house was still, I got up and walked to the dining table, where her laptop sat beneath a stack of mail. Usually, she kept it in her bag. Tonight, she hadn't. I opened it and, to my shock, it was unlocked. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she thought I'd never check. Her email loaded instantly. I expected a lockdown fortress of folders. Instead, everything was just there. The inbox was full, but one folder caught my eye right away. M. Just the letter. Subtle. I clicked it. What I saw made my chest hollow out. Dozens of emails. Some labeled with dates. Some with nothing more than a smiley face as the subject. Most were from Garrett. No last name, just G. They weren't all recent either. Some dated back months. I opened the most recent. Last night was everything. You were everything. I can still smell you on my shirt. Can't wait for Denver. Same hotel. The message was short, but it said more than enough. Below it was a string of replies. Flirtatious, familiar, cruel in their normalcy. She talked to him like I didn't exist. Inside jokes. Complaints about coworkers. Planning their next meetup. Jokes about Jay being the perfect cover Jesse, I realized. Her own friend reduced to an alibi. I scrolled faster. Some messages included photos. Selfies in bed. A room service tray. One of her holding a wine glass. Same shade of red from the one I'd found on our nightstand. She was wearing a t-shirt I didn't recognize. It wasn't just emotional. It wasn't recent. It was deliberate. I clicked one older email, sent 2 months ago. You don't have to keep hiding him from me. I don't care about Kevin. I want all of you. Eventually, he'll get the message. Let me love you out loud. My vision blurred. I closed the laptop, leaned back in the chair, and just stared at the ceiling. It was like being underwater, no sound, just pressure. Everything was muffled except for my own heartbeat. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but it was like my body had locked down. No tears, just coldness. I sat there for at least an hour, maybe more. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't think beyond the weight of it all. At some point, I walked back into the bedroom. She was curled up under the comforter, breathing slow and steady, peaceful, like she didn't carry a second life with her in that laptop. I stood in the doorway, staring at her silhouette. I wanted to wake her up, shake her, ask her how long she'd been lying to me, ask her why she invited someone else into our world and treated it like a secret garden. But I didn't, because I already knew the answers, and they weren't going to change anything. So I turned around, walked down the hall, and shut the door behind me. Then I sat in the dark until morning.by Monday morning. Something inside me had turned off, like a breaker flipped in the middle of the night. There was no yelling, no confrontation, no emotional spiral. Just a hollow clarity that told me everything I needed to do, step by step. Molly left for work before I got out of bed. She didn't say goodbye. She hadn't in weeks, but I hadn't noticed how permanent that silence had become. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before I got up, showered, and made a cup of coffee like I wasn't about to dismantle the entire life we'd built together. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at the bank login screen. I'd been half tempted to check our accounts over the weekend, but some part of me had still hoped I wouldn't have to. Now that hope was gone. When I logged in, I noticed two things immediately. First, she'd transferred $500 last week into an account I didn't recognize, something labeled personal backup. The second was that she'd been using our joint credit card for hotel stays, gas, and takeout in places she'd never told me she'd been. A boutique hotel downtown, a beachside in 3 towns over. All of it added up to something very clear. She was funding parts of this affair through our shared life. I moved fast. By noon, I'd already spoken with 2 attorneys. The first one was too soft-spoken, too unsure. The second was direct, sharp, and didn't blink when I told him what I'd found. His name was Grant Mendez, and the moment I heard him say, "We'll make this clean and unflinching," I knew I had the right guy. I laid everything out for him. The affair, the financial trail, the emails I'd found. He didn't ask for drama, just facts. I gave him dates, amounts, *TS, copies of the photos from her inbox. He nodded, made notes, and told me I was already ahead of most clients by not exploding emotionally first. "She's going to be stunned when she realizes you're already this far along," he said. "That's good. We want her off balance." Next, I called the bank. The house had been jointly owned until a year ago, when we refinanced under my name. Molly's credit had taken a hit after a string of missed payments on a student loan she'd forgotten about, something I had forgiven her for at the time. Now, it turned out to be a small, accidental blessing. I moved my paychecks into a new private account. I froze the joint cards. I rerouted my retirement contributions to an individual portfolio. The financial umbilical cord that connected us snipped, quietly, cleanly. Then I made a list. At the top, gather her things. I wasn't going to do a dramatic purge. I wasn't going to throw her clothes out the window or burn old pictures on the lawn. That wasn't me. What I wanted was order. I started with the essentials: clothes, toiletries, chargers, medications, makeup bags, shoes. I packed everything neatly into 3 boxes and set them near the front door. I pulled down a few framed photos from the walls. Anniversary trips, birthdays, the fake smiles that had aged into lies, and placed them face down in the bottom of the 3rd box. I left Luna's things untouched. She was mine before Molly ever entered the picture, and she'd stay mine after. There was only one thing left to do. At 5 p.m., I printed the formal letter from my attorney. It outlined the preliminary divorce filing, including details about assets, evidence of infidelity, and a notice that she was no longer permitted to enter the property without written consent. I placed the letter on top of the boxes along with her key, copied and labeled in red ink. I'd already changed the locks that morning. When I was done, I stood at the front door and stared at the small stack for a long moment. This was it. Not a blow-up. Not a shouting match. Just a quiet, irreversible shift. That evening, she texted me around 7. "Molly, running late? Might stop by Mom's, don't wait up." I didn't respond. I made myself dinner: steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans. A real meal. Not a frozen pizza. Not cereal. I ate in silence with Luna at my feet, the TV playing quietly in the background. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was walking around with a hidden bruise on my chest. At 9:34 p.m., I heard the familiar shuffle of tires on the driveway. She walked up the steps, jingled her keys, and tried the lock. Click. Click. Pause. A beat of silence. Then knocking. Then her voice, soft at first. "Kev? It's me." I didn't answer. More knocking. "Kevin? What's going on?" Then I heard her phone ring inside her purse. A pause. Then the buzz of a message. I walked over to the door, pulled back the curtain, and looked through the glass. She saw me. Her face changed: relief, confusion, concern. I didn't open the door. I just nodded once toward the boxes and let the curtain fall back into place. I could hear her footsteps as she stepped back, saw her silhouette bending toward the pile. The sound of cardboard shifting, tape peeling. Then silence. For a long minute she just stood there. Then came the voice I'd expected, sharp, high-pitched, defensive. Kevin? What the hell is this? Are you kidding me? Is this some kind of joke? I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Outside, more knocking. Louder. Angrier. You can't be serious. Kevin, open the damn door. Luna whined. I knelt beside her and scratched her head. It's okay, girl, I whispered. She'll leave. After a while, she did. I watched through the blinds as she loaded the boxes into her trunk, slamming them down harder than necessary. She stood there for a minute after closing the trunk, hands on her hips, eyes scanning the front of the house like she expected me to step outside. I didn't. She drove off. The moment her taillights vanished around the corner, I locked the deadbolt and turned off the porch light. I didn't sleep well that night, not because I was conflicted, but because the adrenaline hadn't worn off yet. My body kept expecting some last-minute twist, a confrontation, a meltdown. But it never came. When I woke up the next morning, the air in the house felt different. Not better, exactly. Just unburdened. Her toothbrush was gone. Her coat wasn't draped over the stair rail. Her mug, once parked permanently beside the coffee machine, was boxed up in the back of her car. Every small thing she used to mark her presence in the house had been erased. And in its place? Silence. But it was my silence. The first time she called, it was less than 12 hours after I'd left her boxes by the door. Molly, Kevin, what is this? Are you serious right now? I'm trying to talk to you. I didn't answer. The second time, she left a voicemail. Her voice was clipped and tense, like she was trying not to yell in public. You're being dramatic. Can we please act like adults and talk this through? I think you're overreacting. We can fix this. By the fifth call, the edge had softened. Her tone had shifted from irritated to confused. I don't understand. You're just locking me out? After everything? And by the seventh, she was crying. Kevin, please. I made a mistake, okay? But this doesn't have to be the end. But it was. She just didn't realize it yet. I didn't block her number. I didn't need to. I let the calls come, let the messages pile up. They were evidence in their own way, an unfolding documentary of denial giving way to desperation. And I watched it all with a strange sense of detachment, like I was reviewing security footage of someone else's life. The first few days, I stayed quiet. I went to work. I walked Luna. I kept everything normal because the truth was, this wasn't chaos, it was clarity. I wasn't reeling. I wasn't broken. I was just breathing again. Garrett, on the other hand, seemed to realize the gravity of the situation faster than Molly did. It started with her job. Monday afternoon, I got a text from someone we both knew, Karen, a mutual friend who worked in HR at the same company. We weren't particularly close, but she'd always liked me. Karen, hey. I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but I thought you should know people are talking. A lot. That was it. Just 7 words. But I knew what they meant. Apparently, Garrett had suddenly distanced himself. Canceled one-on-ones. Pulled out of meetings she was scheduled to attend. Started forwarding her project inquiries to someone else. Slowly but deliberately, he began removing her from the picture. Molly had always called him a champion of his team. But champions don't protect sinking ships. They jump to safety, let someone else drown. By Thursday, her title had been stripped from the company website. I didn't hear it from her. I saw it myself. I searched her name out of curiosity and found a clean, sterile listing. Her LinkedIn page still claimed she was a senior account lead, but the company directory had already erased her. The blank space where her name had been said more than any announcement could have. When I got home that night, her car was parked outside. I hadn't seen her in person since the night she tried to get in. Now, she was sitting on the front steps like a teenager waiting to be let back inside after curfew. She stood as I pulled into the driveway, her arms wrapped around herself. Kevin, she said quietly as I stepped out of the car. Please. I just need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. I looked at her, and for a moment, I almost didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me. She looked tired. Not just physically. Worn down, hollowed out. Her eyes were red and her clothes were rumpled like she'd been living out of her car or someone else's guest room. But I didn't respond. I walked past her, key in hand, Luna tugging gently at the leash. She reached out. Kev, please. I lost everything. I paused. She must have seen something flicker across my face because she took a step closer. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't have anyone else. Garrett, he said we need to keep things professional. That it's not a good time to be seen together. Of course he did. I said nothing. The porch light clicked on above us. Luna sat patiently by the door, waiting. I messed up, she whispered, her voice cracking. And now no one wants anything to do with me. You won't talk to me. Jesse's furious. My mom won't even let me stay the night. I raised my eyebrows slightly. Your mom? She nodded, laughing bitterly. Said I embarrassed her. Said I should have known better than to blow up my marriage for a man who wears matching socks with his initials stitched into them. I almost smiled at that. Almost. I don't need you to fix this, she said. I know I don't deserve that. But I can't even get in to pack my things. I don't know where to go. Please, Kev? Please don't make me disappear like I'm nothing. I looked at her then. Really looked. And what I saw wasn't the woman I fell in love with. It wasn't even the woman who betrayed me. It was just a person standing in the ruins of her own decisions, hoping someone else would help her build shelter from the wreckage. You're not nothing, I said. You're just not mine to protect anymore. She opened her mouth, but I was already turning the key in the lock. She didn't follow. I watched through the window as she walked slowly back to her car. She didn't slam the door. She didn't cry. She just sat there for a long time, motionless. Eventually, the headlights blinked on and she pulled away. The next morning, I emailed her attorney the final asset transfer files. There wasn't much left to argue about. Most of what she'd been entitled to had already been divided by her own choices. And what hadn't? My lawyer made sure it stayed with me. Her friends fell silent. The ones who used to comment on every anniversary post and birthday photo vanished. I noticed her Instagram went private. Then it went dark altogether. I didn't look for updates, but occasionally I heard things. Jesse, despite being her closest friend, apparently cut ties completely. Said Molly had lied to her face too many times. A few of the people from work quietly unfollowed her. Garrett got a promotion, of course. And Molly? Well, no one knew for sure. The last time I heard her voice was in a voicemail she left 2 weeks later. Hey, I know you're probably done hearing from me and I get it. But I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for all of it. I didn't think things through. I thought I had time. I thought I had options. And I guess I thought you'd always be there. But you're not. And I deserve that. There was a long pause. I thought she might have hung up. I just hope you find someone who doesn't take you for granted. You didn't deserve this. I see that now. I really hope you're okay. I deleted it after listening. Once. Not out of anger. Not out of cruelty. But because it no longer mattered. That part of my life had closed. The fallout was hers to manage now. The mess was one she'd made without my help. And I wasn't going to help her clean it up. I had my own house to rebuild.